Good evening and welcome to episode 18 of our Eagles Nesting series, while we're all staying at home to protect the NHS and social care, to stay alert, control the virus, and ultimately save lives. Thank you for all of the great comments, and I'm glad you've been enjoying all of the chats that we've had on the Nesting series so far. We've had some fantastic guests. We've looked at some amazing games and really brought back loads of memories from some of these historic seasons and games and results for our Eagles. Silverware of plenty the season before when we did the clean sweep. What a season that was. And now we're up to the 2012-13 season. Well, not quite the same story at all. Not the season that we perhaps would have wanted, but an incredible season in the BBL and a really, really good, just great set of games for our Eagles throughout that season with lots to talk about, but unfortunately, no silverware in this season. To talk about this season and to introduce the one game that we are going to play from 2012-13, I want to welcome back our assistant coach. As we heard in that Sheffield Sharks head coach's chat last night, when Timber Lions was chatting to Fab on Facebook Live, there is only one person that you can invite back on when you need the stats, the analytics, and the history. It's our very own human computer, as I think you would describe, Dave. Dave Forrester, welcome back.
Thank you, Dan.
There are in this season still a lot of familiar faces from that 2011-12 season, but there was a certain amount of change with the team this year, with players going out, new guys coming in. And it was like, just wasn't really our year compared to that clean sweep season, the season before. But this year, as well as the change, we were hit by a few injuries, weren't we?
Yeah, every year after a successful year is a transition year. Every year, that's the way the BBL works. Everybody else gets stronger and aims at you, and it's almost impossible to keep the team together. So we had a degree of transition in the team. We lost Bridgie, we lost Andy Thompson, went to France to further his career. We lost Paul Gores, and we brought in Damon Huffman and Ant Martin and Kareem Maddox. And the aim was that Fab would move away from being the point guard, and he would perform, he would be a power forward and do what Andy was doing and fit around then. And actually, we started off really, really well. We had played against Damon and Kareem in Holland the year before, and we knew that they were really talented players and really would fit in well. In the first half of the year, we were, I think, probably the best team in the league for the first 3 months, whilst the other teams were gelling, and we started really successfully. And then we got to kind of the make or break, which was Leicester. Leicester were 100 times better that year than they were the year before. Rob had recruited a heck of a team. He added Zaire Taylor, Jay Cousinard, Jorge Calvo, Pavel Lazonsky, and real solid professional players, and kept Drew Sullivan and a couple of the other guys as well. And they were chafing because we'd beaten them and they hadn't won yet. So it was kind of head-to-head with us and them the whole season, but the problem was we didn't actually get to play them until January in the cup final. So the first time we played them was a cup final. I think if we played in the first couple of months, we might have been able to get a march on them, but we didn't. And the cup final was an extremely close game. It came down to the last minute. It was a tie game, and Zaire made a very tough three from the wing, which just kind of got them over the hump to win that game. And at that point, the league was up for grabs. I think we were like 16-2, and Leicester were 15-1 or something like that. It was literally a two-horse race. And we came out the following week after the cup final. We played against Sheffield at home. Joe had like 43 points. We were flying. You could see the guys had really been revved up by the loss in the cup final. And then the weekend after that Sheffield game, it all went wrong because Fab tore his groin, and Damon in practice tore his hip flexor, which is a muscle at the top of the thigh. And they were both out for 2 months. and we just couldn't survive that. Whereas the year before we'd had injuries which were only like a week or 2 weeks long, and people had got back. This year it just didn't work like that. Losing to two of our main guys at the same time, and particularly the way Damon was playing, because Damon had just dropped 38 points on London Lions, and he was really coming into the league.
Mm-hmm. So those injuries with Damon and Fab are later in the season, but we were already carrying injuries in the earlier part of the season here in December in the game that we're going to watch tonight. Tell us a little bit about this game, Dave.
So the game that we're going to watch is a game from actually the earlier part of the season, when the injuries had set in a little bit, but it's a game at Plymouth, and everybody knows how we feel about Plymouth in the game. We'd already played Plymouth twice. I think we played them in the Cup semi-final, and we beat them by 15 in Plymouth, and then lost by 15 at home and beat them in overtime. So they were a bit fed up with us because we kept beating them to get into the Cup finals or in the finals. And we ended up going down there on a Sunday, having played at Worcester on a Saturday night, 7 o'clock, and Sunday, 4 o'clock at Plymouth. And Charles was injured from the Worcester game, and we'd been beaten at Worcester. I think it was probably the first game that we'd lost, maybe the second game that we'd lost. And the Worcester beat us by about 15, and we were really beat up. You end up playing on a hard floor in Plymouth. You play at Worcester, and then it's a 3-hour drive down to Plymouth straight after the game, so you don't get into Plymouth until like 2 o'clock, 2:30. And then you have to get up to play at 4 o'clock the following afternoon against a team that's desperate to beat us. And it was just about, the reason I like this game is because it was the antithesis of all the other games we've seen. It was the ugliest game of basketball you will ever see. It was a Sky game. We had 10 great fans who were there. You see them on the telly screaming and shouting us along. And I'm not quite sure, still to this day, not quite sure how we won. When guys watch the video, you'll see that Charles wasn't playing. Joe had quite a serious elbow injury at this point. His elbow, had a great big bump on the end of it, which made it look like 2 golf balls attached to his elbow. So he was playing through that. And there's a point at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, about a minute and a half to go, where the camera goes onto the baseline and shows a picture of our guys who literally look like they've just come off a battlefield. They're all bent over, carrying things on their back or whatever. And despite that, they were diving on the floor, locking down defensively, and basically winning a game that we had absolutely no right at all to win. And those games kind of stick with you after a while, because it's easy to win when everybody's making shots and you're scoring 110 points and everybody feels good about themselves. When you play against a talented team who've got a grudge against you on their court, 400 miles away on the second leg of a back-to-back, having got into the hotel 12 hours earlier, and being in the pavilions with the Fox and all of that stuff going on as well, and you manage to somehow come away with what was basically an improbable win, given the state that our team was in at that point. Those are games that are worth remembering. So I thought it'd be nice to have it on this series, because that team that year was talented and it was a good team, and Damon and Kareem and Ant all came in and did a really good job for us. We just didn't quite have the rub of the green and didn't quite have enough to get past that Leicester team. And that's the only reason people think, oh, well, didn't win anything that year, they weren't very good, they need to bounce back. No, we came up against a heck of a team in a little bit of a transition, having just won all 4 and getting a little bit of bad luck along the way. And all it takes is those little things just to divert a season, of course, just a little bit.
It's just been great to hear the whole picture, if you like, not just looking at how things finished and the table at the end of the season. As you say, we were runners up in the Cup against the Raiders. out of the trophy in the quarters. It was against Wolves, finished second in the league in total, and runners-up in the playoffs against the Raiders again, who had, as you say, that hugely important, as they've been calling it on Twitter and on Facebook, because they've been looking back at some of their historic moments. So it was one of their champagne moments, a season for them when they did the treble, apart from nearly getting the clean sweep. The Sharks just taking that with.
Yes, that's right.
But for us, it was also a season, I think, that coming off the back of that clean sweep was one that was always going to be tricky to come straight off a clean sweep into a.
Well, you heard what, you heard what Fab said on the last one. That the clean sweep doesn't start at the beginning of the clean sweep season; it starts the season before. And just the way that we in the season before, we'd beaten Leicester in the final, and so Leicester's success of that season started the season before, when they'd been trying to get to us and hadn't made it, and they were short. They weren't as good a team as us that year. They had good players, but they weren't as good a team. And Rob took his team apart basically, and he found better. He brought back better players. He didn't have Rundles, didn't have Wisbicki, he didn't have Hardy, despite the fact they got to the final. He went back and he obtained better players. Taylor, Kuznard, Lozonski, and promoted Connor Washington, Jamel Anderson, Calvo, all of those guys. So they were taking the next step, and we were trying to retain where we were, but with a degree of player churn. And obviously losing Bridgie and Andy, in particular as British players, is very tough to replace. To lose that degree of experience in winning. But even then, as I say, the thing with Leicester was they were a new team, so it took them time to gel. And they managed to win games early season gelling, but we never got to play them early season. And I think if we played them early season, maybe we might have been able to create a different narrative for the season. In the end, I mean, the cup final, which was the first one Leicester ever won, it was a titanic game. It wasn't as a game which was decided either way. It went back and forwards. And as I say, credit to them. Zaire made a massive shot with Damon in his face from the wing with about a minute to go. And then Drew blocked his shot. And that was it. That was the game, 2 plays. But that gave them the confidence once they'd done that, I think, to kick on, which is what a new team needs. If you're a new team, you need to have belief in yourself. You need to keep it flowing. You need to win that first one. If you win the first one, the belief continues. We weren't a new team. We were able to bounce back because we had people like Joe and Charles and Fab who'd been there before. But our bounce back was taken away by our injuries. Our bounce back was taken away. So Damon's injury and Fab's injury took away the entire flow of our team. And it became very difficult then cobbling together enough points and enough cohesion to win games. And that was when the Worcester quarter-final came in during that run, the trophy quarter-final. And I think Jamal actually played in that game, and Jamal played really well in that game and made a ton of shots on us. And as I say, it came in that kind of period of time whereby I think we lost 3 or 4 home games in a row in January or February. We just didn't quite have the balance. Really, I think Plymouth came up and beat us, and they finally got one back on us. And that's the way that the league works. The moment that there's a degree of weakness, teams are going to come in and try and stamp all over you. So no, I give Leicester a ton of credit for that year, because they'd been building up to it for probably 3 or 4 years, and it kind of finally just clicked for them, and just at a time when, for various reasons, we were a little bit more vulnerable than we had been the last couple of years.
I think actually it's 12 years that Riders went without winning any silverware at all up to that BBL Cup in the January of this particular season, 2012-13. And as you mentioned about Rob at the Riders and the success they had this season with rebuilding a team going into the next season, which leads us on to more silverware wins with the team. We also brought in some new players and changed things up quite a bit, didn't we?
To be honest, we weren't far away this year. Ultimately we lost. As I say, we lost the cup final in a one-shot game. We lost the playoff final, I think, by about 10. We were second in the league. So it was by no means a failure of a year. It's just one where the ball didn't bounce in our direction. As I say, we came up against a team that was slightly better than us and got the roll on us. The following year was actually probably more of a disruption, because we actually probably changed more things the following year, because we brought in a bunch of we brought in 2 new Americans in Malik and Scott the following year, and brought Paul Gores back. And so we were actually a younger team that year. Joe went across to Japan the following year for a couple of years. So we left with Charles and Darius and Fab, and then a bunch of slightly younger guys. We brought Drew Lasker in as well. So there's more churn the following season, but everybody churned the following season because Leicester had had their treble with their really strong team, but you can't keep those teams together. So that team separated. So they weren't as good the following year. And it was actually Worcester who came up the following year and who were a major threat, and Sheffield with BJ Holmes were a major threat. But that's the churn of the BBL. Every year was different, and it was probably the greatest exemplification of our success was that, despite the fact that every year was different and all the challenges were different, 15 years in the top 3 and 13 years in the top 2, which is just ridiculous consistency in what is never changing sporting landscape and sporting environment.
Well, as you said, this game we're playing tonight is a huge battle and a great one to watch from this season one. Unfortunately, we were the bridesmaid, but not the bride, to quote an analogy. We just really appreciate hearing your memories and thoughts from taking us back to this time in this season. And we look forward to this game we've been talking about against Plymouth Raiders on the road with a struggling team, but what a team and that took to the court to fight in this one. Yeah,
I mean, when a team puts it all, this is the definition of a team putting it all on the floor this game. These guys had every reason to say, look, enough's enough, we can't get this done. And they didn't quit at any point. And in fact, they mentally disintegrated the opposition to the point whereby they just outlasted them. It was like almost like a cricket match. You just basically outlasted them and wore them down mentally. And those wins are actually the sweetest of all. A little bit like the Glasgow win. They're the sweetest of all because it's your group just looking another group in the eye and saying, no, you're not going to beat us today. Doesn't matter how many shots we miss or how hard it is, we're just going to dive on the floor, we're going to make the next play. And now we had some great fans there that day. We had like 10 or 12 fans there that day all the way in Plymouth, making a ton of noise up at the top. And you see them on the support, you see them on the footage, and it's wonderful.
Well, here we go then, back to that date. Dave, thank you again for your time today and for taking us back. We are going to Sunday, the 9th of December in 2012. We're going to the Plymouth Pavilions. It's in the BBL Championship, and the coverage comes from Sky Sports. Stay alert, stay at home if you can, stay safe, protect the NHS and social care, control the virus and save lives, and enjoy the game.
Hello and welcome to the Plymouth Pavilions for this BBL Championship clash on Sky Sports. We've got two of the leading contenders for you, the Plymouth Raiders and the Newcastle Eagles. The Eagles progressed to the Cup final last week at the expense of the Raiders, but Plymouth almost completed an impressive comeback with a big win on Tyneside. Who will prevail in this league encounter? We'll find out over the next couple of hours. Before we get into the action, let's have a look at how these two teams are placed in the league table ahead of tonight's game. Leicester still have a 4-point cushion at the top as Newcastle lost one of their games in hand last night in Worcester. Plymouth are fourth, but they also lost ground in the title race when they were beaten in London 48 hours ago. Surrey sit between those two teams in third. The Wolves and Lions both winning gives them a small lead over Glasgow, who's still looking to make up games. Cheshire and Sheffield either side of the playoff line, with Manchester and Durham just behind them in that race as things stand right now. Well, tonight I'm joined by a man who needs no introduction in these parts, Plymouth legend Jamie Bertrand. Jamie, great to have you with us. Newcastle, Plymouth playing a lot against each other. 17-point wins either way in the Cup. It's a really strange matchup between these teams.
Yeah, I mean, the first leg of the Cup that was here a few weeks ago, I haven't seen a team shooting display for a long time here on, in this arena, as Newcastle showed. They just couldn't miss, and I think we're a little bit lucky, and not lucky in the fact that we only came away with a 17-point loss instead of a 25 or 30-point loss. So, and then obviously up in Newcastle, it's always going to be tough for Newcastle to kind of play with a lead. Raiders would have been loose to go up there, and that's the way obviously it panned out. It was a 17-point win for both teams. So,
Matchneck, massive double-double in that game. Do you think they'll be able to get those sort of numbers out of him again today?
Well, I think one thing you can count on Matchneck is a double-double pretty much every game. He showed it every year he's played in the BBL, and you can't see anything different today really. He definitely takes the rebounding load for the Raiders, but then obviously on the other side he's got to keep athletic guys like Darius Defoe and Maddox as well kind of off the glass, but he's one of those guys that goes after absolutely everything, so I don't see any differently today.
And both these teams coming into this game having lost, that makes this a huge weekend for these two teams.
Yeah, I think it adds a little bit extra. It was probably something that wasn't really thought of by either team going into this one, but I think it definitely adds a little bit of extra spice, and it does make it bigger. Raiders don't want to kind of cast adrift, and Newcastle obviously going to be desperate to pick up the win to try and get back as close as possible to Leicester.
It certainly promises to be a great game between two top teams. Earlier I spoke to both the coaches to gauge their opinion. Well, Gavin, playing Newcastle Eagles yet again, how do you approach it? Do you have to change the game plan every time?
I think you do. I think we adjusted to the last time we played them. It was a far better performance defensively and offensively. You tweak a few things, but we pretty much know what they're coming with, and they know what we're coming with. So I'm sure it's going to be another great game.
Well, when you two teams seem to meet, there always seems to be a big winning margin one way or the other, and actually away teams seem to do better. Why is that?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, to tell you the truth, but both games have been interesting one way or the other. I mean, they shot the ball extremely well down here, and I think we just put in a more consistent performance up at their place, and it was a great win. Unfortunately, obviously in overtime, due to the two-leg competition, we didn't win the competition overall, but I'm satisfied with the victory.
Both teams in the top four, both coming off losses, so it makes it a big game for both of you.
Absolutely. I mean, in the BBL, one weekend that way or the other way can, it can mean a lot to a team, good or for bad. So it's going to be a really bad weekend for one team.
Well, Fab, as a coach, how difficult is it to play the same team 3 weeks in a row?
Extremely difficult. Each and every player through in and out. They'll know you. It's about your counters, and it's about the coaches, because the coaches will make subtle changes, both offensively and defensively, to gain an edge.
And the changes that you've been looking at this week, will they involve trying to contain Matchneck? He had a big game last week.
Yeah, but the changes are primarily gonna, before we even get to them, are gonna be down with us. With the injuries that we have, picked up a couple of injuries, so it's about changing what we do, personnel, and understanding what we have to do. Then it's about making sure that we get on a scouting report and defend them. And it's a case where you got to pick your poison. You do the job on the guards, and then the forwards hurt you. You do the job on the forwards, then the guards hurt you. So they're a complete team, both inside and out. And the thing is, within this league, I don't care who you are, it's about defending. The teams that are willing and committed to defending are the team that come out victorious most often than not.
And Charles Smith limped out of your game against the Wolves. What's the situation on him?
He won't be playing tonight. It's just a calf strain pull. We'll get a little bit more once he get back up to Newcastle, and find out, from the doctors, where he's going to be at. So it's a case of too early in the season to be going out there or putting him out there and trying to, do something, and quite honestly put him out for further than what he should be.
And he's a big part of your offense. Does that put extra pressure on the defense to try and keep them to a low number?
Yeah, I mean, Charles is a big part of, he's, our top scorer and, over 5,000 points. And, most, Charles is just instant offense. And, unassumingly, a lot of people, look past him. But, he's a pivotal point. He's a focal point on both ends of the court. And he doesn't get a lot of credit the way he should. And more importantly, he don't get a lot of credit for his defense. Although he's not moving fast, he knows the defensive system and the defensive rotations. And when you have a team with 4 or 5 new guys, that's extremely important.
Good luck in today's game. Thank you.
Well, tip-off just over a minute away. Let's have a look at the two-team lineup, starting with the hometown Raiders. And Plymouth lead the league in scoring. Mike Ojo, Jeremy Bell, 2 of the top 3 in the BBL, who are averaging over 20 points per game. Matt Schneck tops the charts in rebounding. You can't sleep on O'Reilly, Barnett. Jamie, the backcourt in particular, if you allow them to get out and run, the Raiders are going to make you pay.
Yeah, I think with Jeremy Bell pushing the ball, anything can happen on offense. He's such a tough shot maker. And of course you've got, Mike Ojo on the wing, who's one of the premier shooters in the league. So it starts there with Raiders on the break, and then obviously, the secondaries to get the ball inside to match Schneck and those guys.
And if we take a look at the Eagles lineup, well, the champions come into this game in the unusual position of having lost 2 in a row, albeit one of those defeats did see them reach the cup final. Having dropped one of their games in hand to the Riders last night, they can ill afford another one as they bid to retain the title. I mean, we know what Charles Smith brings to the game, so we know what he's leaving behind for the Newcastle Eagles. It puts a bit of extra pressure on the new players, the likes of Huffman and Maddox, in their first BBL season here today.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Smith has been a thorn in the side of the Raiders over the last, goodness knows how many years. It's definitely going to be a miss for Newcastle Eagles, but knowing Fab, that he's going to demand a lot of the rest of the guys, and guys, good enough to step up.
Yeah, it will be a definite hole in the Newcastle Eagles lineups, no doubt about that. Charles Smith averaging 18.8 points per game. He leads his team in scoring. And we've seen Huffman have big games. We've seen Maddox have big games. We've seen Joe Chapman have big games for many a long year, but they're going to need all of those guys to contribute just to try and fill some of that offensive hole.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Chapman, I got to speak to him after the Cup game here a few weeks ago, and he said his role has definitely changed somewhat this season. He's become more of a passer. Obviously, he still can score the ball, and I think we'll probably see a little bit more of that today, just to kind of fill the gap of Charles Smith not being in there.
Well, we're ready to go. It's Defoe and Schneck to jump it up here at the pavilions, and it's Defoe who wins the tip, and Huffman who crosses the ball over to Fab Flanoy, the player coach at the point guard position here. Gets it to Chapman, little up and under fake. Maddox now driving baseline, nice move along.
He showed that in the Cup game down here a few weeks ago as well, that he's an agile big man with some good handling skills.
Well, the ball's disappeared over the back somewhere. Here's another look, a good quick step. He's very athletic. You've got to shut off that baseline.
Yeah, you've got to shut off the baseline, but if you do get beat, Plymouth should really have guys there to help out.
Ball tipped away by Huffman and will stay with the Raiders. Bell penetrating through, dumps it off to Schneck. Schneck looking to go to work. Good work by Defoe defensively to make that a difficult shot. Huffman round the screen from Frenoy. Thought about the bounce pass down to him. Goes out to Chapman instead. Barnett, that extra length to try and put Chapman off the shot. That one off the glass didn't go. And if you've got somebody as long as Barnett, it's a good matchup for you defensively as long as he can keep with Joe Chapman.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to say it than to actually do it sometimes. Joe Chapman is potent offensively.
Defoe trying to back down. Schneck knocked that loose. Ojo came up with it. Barnett out and running to the finger roll. Great finish.
Mike Ojo showing why he's up there in the top 5 in steals this year.
And really, the Eagles didn't react defensively. They got numbers back, they just didn't stop the ball.
Yeah, I mean, Javaris Barnett is a long player, and he can definitely get it done on the break.
There's Schneck clearing house under the basket, pulling down that rebound. Bell spotted a little gap around the outside there, but in the end he decided to set up the play.
Yeah, I like the patience Jeremy just showed there. You know, everyone knows he can make tough shots. We decided to take that option.
Ojo going hard to the basket, was challenged by Maddox, but he finished it off. And Joe Chapman running. We'll have another look at the, went up hard there, tried to finish over Maddox. And just quickly, the Chapman was racing down court. The long pass went to him, and there was a foul called as he went to the basket. Here's a look. You see, he just went quick, and Schneck caught him on the arm.
Yeah, that's poor transition defense from Raiders there after the basket. You know, Raiders have got to do a better job in locating a guy, especially the one that's you know, the closest to the basket.
Well, there was some debate there as to whether the ball went in. The referee originally said it was no basket. Newcastle were arguing that the ball went in, and it should be a three-point play. The home fans not happy. And this is the bonus free throw.
I'm not sure if we can take another look at that. But you know, remembering back, I don't think it went in.
We'll have a look at it in a second when we get a break in play, as Bell's shot doesn't go. Huffman pulls down the rebound, but O'Reilly has got loose to it. Ojo skips it round to Bell. Bell with the pull-up, doesn't quite go. This time Maddox pulls in the rebound. Quick bounce pass out to Chapman. Ball's gone out of bounds and will be a Plymouth ball. And let's have another look at that last basket by Chapman. Here he was, there's the foul, gets it up, and it goes off and tipped away by Barnett. They gave him 2 points for that.
Yeah, that's a strange one.
Well, let's hope it's not a two-point game at the end of it.
No.
That shot doesn't go. Schneck got a hand to it, but couldn't keep it alive. And it will be a Eagles ball from the end. We're tied at 3 minutes in here.
Matt Schneck showing again there that even if he doesn't grab the rebound, then you know he's all over the glass and getting hands and tips all over the place.
Maddox to Flanoy. Huffman. Chapman. Defoe at the free throw line, a little short, and the rebound pulled in by Barnett. O'Reilly given space, thought about the three, turned it down. Maddox did well to recover there, and Schneck going strong.
Yeah, both teams struggling to put the ball in the basket in the early exchanges.
Well, there are 8 points on the board, but of course 2 of them didn't actually go in. No. So we've only seen 3 scores.
And of course, these are the two top scorers in the league.
Yeah, it's typical, isn't it? As we see a turnover there, overcooked. The 2 teams, number 1 and 2 in the BBL in scoring. Raiders topping the charts, 95 points a game. Newcastle 88 in second place. Defoe, it just shows you actually 7-point gap between first and second in the scoring. How many points the Raiders are capable of putting on the ball. Flanoy bouncing that to, well, in the general direction of Chapman, but out of bounds. But I would imagine without Charles Smith, as we have another look at this turnover, Newcastle won't be too disappointed if this is a low-scoring game.
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, often it goes like that. You've got 2, you know, offensive teams, and it happens in other sports as well. You have 2, you know, really good attacking teams, and they kind of almost cancel each other out.
But I know Newcastle may be second in the league, but I know Fab Flanoy would want his team to be known as a defensive team first.
Yeah.
Who happened to score a lot of points.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last week against Worcester, the Raiders actually went 14-0 down at the start of the game. So, you know, and scored 9 points in you know, less than a minute. So you can definitely put points on it, you know, on the board in a hurry.
Well, interestingly, the Wolves went 14-0 to start the fourth quarter against the Eagles, and that set them on the way to that 15-point win that Newcastle are looking to bounce back. Schneck along the baseline, and Hoffman had helped down, and that's always going to be a win for Matt Schneck.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Charles Smith offers, other than his scoring, is obviously his, you know, his size. You know, as a guy that can go to the guard spot or a forward spot, you know, he's got that size that he can match up with a lot of people.
Maddox driving in is fouled, and he'll go to the line for 2. Fouled on Barnett. You like the aggressiveness there of Maddox, though, taking it to the basket. Seen similar things from Schneck at the other end.
Yeah, I mean, Maddox looks really like he's a guy that can really face up, put the ball on the floor, and obviously he can get to the line, showing a nice shooting touch there.
Makes the first free throw. This with a chance to tie the game at only 6, and we're midway through this first period. And gets a friendly bounce, and we are level. Easy night so far for the scorekeeper. Not much to make note of. Schneck to O'Reilly. Trying that bounce pass. It was good vision, but just caught the leg, which will reset the shot clock to 14 for the Raiders and give them a sideline possession. Bell penetrates through, tosses it up. You would say tough shot for most people, but those are almost bread and butter for Jeremy Bell.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, I wouldn't say has struggled over the last couple of weeks because the guy's still averaging 20 points, but sometimes I think when people see that he's had an 18-point game, they think, well, you know, he's had an off night, so, you know, it's good to see him, you know, start off the game, quickly get into the basket.
Flanoy trying to back down Bell. Bell, look at him, reaching round to knock that loose. Flanoy gets it back strong to the hole and just gets it off in time.
It's going to be a tough matchup there because, you know, obviously physically, you know, Fab Flanoy, you know, a little bit bigger than Jeremy Bell and been able to take him all the way to the post.
Schneck, it was again that nice little roll to the basket. Couldn't finish it off though, just bobbled out on him. Here's Chapman, double team, gets it out to Flanoy. Defoe left open from 12 feet, his shot doesn't go. And look how high Ojo got up for that rebound. Little stop and go from Ojo. Bell now up in the air, trying to get it to Barnett, but fortunately for him, Ojo picked it up, and Ojo wide open knocks down a 16-foot jumper.
Yeah, slightly fortunate there for the Raiders, but I'm sure Coach Love won't mind it one little bit.
Hoffman around the screen. O'Reilly dropped back towards his man. It left Hoffman open, but he couldn't make him pay. Barnett is bumped by Hoffman. That'll be a foul.
I think that's one of the strengths of the Raiders this year. They've got guys other than the point guard that can just kind of grab rebounds and go coast to coast and, you know, be comfortable. I mean, at the moment, Javaris Barnett is the foreman out there, and he's very comfortable dribbling the ball up the court.
Yeah, you look out there and you think pretty much everybody, that'll be a goaltend, as that was on the way down, according to the referee. Defoe with the block. Let's have another look. It's on the trajectory going down. Yeah, probably just.
Yeah, it was close.
It was close. But as we were saying, you look out there and you think pretty much everybody on the Raiders team, if they grab the rebound, maybe you wouldn't want Schneck bringing the ball up, but the other 4 guys are more than comfortable.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Coach Love definitely recruited a team that can definitely do that. Colin O'Reilly, you know, done that. Colin's a very, very good rebounder. So, you know, he can push the ball. Javaris Barnett can push the ball, and actually he comes up with a lot of points that way. So, you know, it's tough to guard.
Huffman's shot is short. The long rebound caught at the foul line by Maddox. Huffman with the spin. Oh, Chapman was open for a second. I think we went into the game for the first time looking to go strong. O'Reilly enough to prevent him from scoring. Oh, just a little bit behind.
Just behind.
Ojo, and he couldn't get a hand to it.
One with the left hand there. Should have, for the kids out there, passed the ball with 2 hands.
Well, Anthony Martin checking into the game for the first time. Of course, a former Plymouth player. We've got guys who've played for both teams on either side. Drew Lasker had a spell in Newcastle as well. Huffman is blocked by O'Reilly. Barnett pulls down the rebound. Here come the Raiders off and running. Bell to the hole. Overcooked though.
He's looking for a foul.
It wasn't coming. Here's what Martin does best.
Dangerous, yeah.
He just in the open floor. It's so explosive. Almost nobody can keep up with him.
No, I don't think there's anybody better in the league than Anthony Martin at that play just there. You know, his first step is just explosive, and he, you know, he's a very good finisher there as well.
Ojo goes past him. And fancy those two have done that in training a few times.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that Mike Ojo has really worked on. You know, over the past summer, his pull-up jump shot. Everyone knew that he was athletic when he was at the basket, and he knew that he was a good three-point shooter. I think one thing he really had to add was that mid-range game, and he's definitely added that this year, and it's actually now one of his go-to moves.
Well, yeah, you thought of Mike Ojo last season. You really thought about that corner three. So deadly from that corner three. But it just keeps the defense honest. If you can put the ball on the floor once and hit one from 15 feet. Maddox looking to go to work. Little stop and go. Rearrange. That does go in. That'll be worth 2 and a bonus. Just sort of scooped it down a little to keep it away from the defender. Just keeps it around there.
Yep, tough move on the left elbow, able to finish.
And he converts the three-point play as well. So it's a 1-point game here with 90 seconds to go in the first quarter. Schneck with the spin, nice move. Took it right from the top of the key.
Yeah, Eagles a little bit slow there on the help defense.
Here's Maddox looking to go again. He definitely likes this matchup. He's attacked every time he's got the ball. It doesn't go. Hickman went inside, just had enough to lay that in.
I think the two bigs out there for Newcastle now doing a fantastic job on the glass.
Almost stolen away by Huffman. Bell keeps it. Hickman playing the defense and pulled up by Maddox, gets it to Chapman. Chapman still going back to Maddox. Feed the big guy if he's going to run the floor.
Yeah, reward. You know, Maddox, as we've already mentioned, is somebody who can definitely get up and down, and you know he can move real well, and you know the reward there for running the floor.
Ojo skips it to Barnett. O'Reilly open in the corner. Drives baseline, dumps it to Schneck, a little bit low. Schneck managed to pull it in. Shot clock is down to 3 here. O'Reilly has to shoot. O'Reilly hits on the 24-second buzzer.
Nice patience there by Raiders.
Long range heave to end the first quarter from the Newcastle Eagles, but what a finish by Colin O'Reilly to hit that 3 and give the Plymouth Raiders a lead here at the end of the first quarter. And Jamie, it was slow to get going, but it's picked up in the last few minutes of this game.
Yeah, it was slow, but you know, guys on each team are too good for it. You know, for it to be you know such low scoring. But I mean, at the moment, I mean, you know, one thing Raiders do have, you know, the unit they've got out there at the moment. You know, there's 4 guys out there that can hit the 3 ball, so they, you know, a little bit of patience. You know, even that one was probably a little bit, too close for comfort for Coach Love. But you know, when they patient with the basketball and they move the basketball, there's guys like Mike Ojo, Colin O'Reilly, Javaris Barnett, and obviously Jeremy Bell that can all stroke the 3.
Well, we're at the end of the first here at the Pavilions. It's the Raiders 19, the Eagles 17. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to the Pavilions. 2 teams making their way out onto court. It's a 2-point game here between 2 of the leading sides in the BBL. It's actually been a good week for both of these teams. The Raiders were named the Plymouth Herald Team of the Year, and Newcastle won a similar award, Northeast Team of the Year. Both of these basketball teams beating off football, rugby, cricket, all these other sports that go on to claim Team of the Year in their respective corners of the country.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for the Raiders and in this area, we've got some great athletes that participated in the Olympics, so it was a great recognition for the Raiders. to win that award.
Hickman went left wide open. He had a lane to the basket. Chose to shoot it instead, and well, there was nobody in there. Rebound, and Lasker just explodes to the basket. First bit of action for Drew Lasker, and he just fills it up for 2.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Lasker has been one of the premier wing guards in the league for since 2005 when he first came into this country. So no surprise that he's able to put the ball on the floor there.
Well, we were talking with the coaches beforehand about the game plans, but they were both a little cagey to give away. But it's certainly part of Newcastle's game plan that Maddox is going to attack from the top of the key there. They seem to have got the ball, got him a lot of touches out at the foul line and said, go to work.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the score sheet, I mean, he's got 9 points for the Eagles at the moment. He had 9 in the quarter. Other scores are on 2, so definitely looks like there's a game plan to try and get the Plymouth Bigs in foul trouble with him.
Well, he got caught on the arm pretty blatantly by O'Reilly. I mean, this will be the easiest call the referee makes all game. Nearly went in. He'll go to the line for 2. Looking to become the first player into double figures in the game as Schneck gets himself a break with Jamal Williams checking in for the first time. It's off the back of the ring from Kareem Maddox. It's about a 2-in-3 guy through the course of the season so far, shooting 67%, makes the second. Martin against Lasker, plenty of pace in that matchup, and
yeah, I mean, that was a Plymouth backcourt for 3 or 4 years, so they know each other really well.
O'Reilly to inbound, gets it to Lasker. Lasker bouncing it onto Williams, little stop and go, drives off the glass, and he converts for 2. Good pass to find him, and then
lovely handle.
Huffman fires up the 3 at the other end and hits Damon Huffman from behind the arc, cuts it to 2. Well, I know Jamal's brother Kai played for the Wolves against the Eagles the last time out and had a big game, and he's trying to get himself involved. Liam Potter with his first shot attempt of the game.
Jamal, very good passer of the basketball, can shoot the ball as well. Really smart guy, and he's a good defender. He can defend bigger guys than him too.
Maddox with the fall away. I don't know if he thought the shot clock was a bit lower than it was. He had a few more seconds to go with that. Dropped out to Williams, thought about the 3, spins underneath, kicks it out to Ojo. Potter fades out a little bit, perhaps could have gone to the basket on that roll. Flanoy kicks it out quickly to Huffman. Huffman from miles out for 3, with all 4 of his teammates in the backcourt.
That was beyond NBA range.
And that's a must-make 3 because there's no way you get the rebound. Williams fires up from behind the arc. He gets his own board. Defoe's gone down the other end already. And Potter can't convert. Huffman pulls in the rebound. Scrappy bit of play from both teams. Martin penetrates, gives it to Defoe. Defoe challenged by Potter, and Defoe did well to keep the ball away from the big guy, draw the foul, go to the line for 2.
Yeah, again, it all started from obviously rebounding the ball. Anthony Martin pushing it quickly as he does, and a nice little dish there, giving it to the big man and just basically saying, finish it off for him.
7:09 to go here at the Pavilions. 2-point game. Timeout has been called. Just thought for a second Foxy was going to join in with the game. He just wandered onto court there. The mascot.
Well, I think the last time you were here,
he broke a backboard.
He broke a backboard, yeah. So
I would have thought they would have chained him down when they saw our cameras. Don't want any broken backboards or anything, but he's...
hopefully we'll see a change in his dunk technique at the 3rd quarter break, because that last time was a little bit of a hour delay.
Defoe misses the second. The rebound comes all the way out to Martin.
On the court.
Seemed to get caught by Lasker, but play on. Defoe. Newcastle struggling to set themselves up here. Chapman still, shot clock very low here. Martin's got to shoot. Martin gets it off under great pressure, doesn't hit the ring, and it was a 24-second violation. And Newcastle never really looked in control of that offense.
Yeah, and I mean, in games that Plymouth have played against Newcastle before, that would have been a perfect time for Charles Smith to get the ball, because, you know, with the shot clock winding down, that's a guy that Raiders definitely would not want, you know, taking that shot.
Well, Liam Potter, size mismatch against Flanoy, but he can't make it count, and Flanoy pulls down the rebound, and Potter is called for the foul on him. But really, the big fella's just got to go up and finish that.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit disappointed in himself. He's got, you know, probably got a good 8 or 9 inch, you know, height advantage there, and you know, unable to finish.
But I tell you what, whatever Fab gives up in height, the effort, desire, strength, hustle, whatever you like, he more than makes up for. Maddox can't quite convert. Potter fighting for it. Eventually O'Reilly comes down with it. Still with O'Reilly, dumps it off to Lasker. Defoe forces him back out. Ojo round the screen from the elbow, off the back of the ring. Potter tips it out. Good work to reset the offense for the Raiders.
The Eagles lineup they've got in at the moment, on the offensive end, the only recognizable shooter you would probably say is Joe Chapman. Hence why I guess they're trying to look to get the ball inside with Maddox.
Foul was called there, just a late touch on Maddox catching Ojo. Although that last comment now changed with Maddox sitting down. Huffman, very much a recognized shooter, coming back into the game. And maybe that part of the thinking in the substitution. Try and give them a little more balance on that three-point line. Mike Ojo makes the first.
One of the things also that makes the Eagles so tough is that, you know, their bigs can step outside the three-point line. They're comfortable handling the ball out there and reversing the ball, which lets Chapman and obviously Charles Smith, or, you know, when he's healthy, let those guys post up. So they're such a versatile team, and obviously, you know, they've got, you know, bigger guards that can post up as well.
Well, there's one for the scrapbook. Mike Ojo missing from the free throw line. Doesn't happen very often. That only his 5th miss from that distance in the league this season. He's usually a 90% free throw shooter.
Yeah, he'll definitely be upsetting, you know, and miss the free throw, because that's something he definitely works really hard on.
Huffman driving to the basket, tossed it up, came off the back of the ring. Another rebound grabbed by Colin O'Reilly. Williams. Lasker backs out. Potter gives the screen. Lasker, look at the speed. Penetrate kick. Beautiful play from Drew Lasker. Jamal Williams with the 2.
Drew Lasker really running the team. You know, when he first came to Plymouth, his first few years, he was primarily a scorer. But the last couple of years, when he was playing at Surrey last year, he kind of really worked on his point guard skills, and, you know, and now he's very much a facilitator. We know he can score, but, you know, he's a facilitator. He definitely gets people involved.
Joe Chapman knocks down the shot there. Only the 2nd basket of the game for last year's MVP. Lasker offered the screen, but passes it on to Williams. Williams spinning out of control, and problem is when you lose control, even if you get the ball away quick enough, which I don't think he did, you're going to get called for a travel.
Yeah, I mean, Fab is a great defender, so he knew as soon as Jamal kind of put the ball on the floor and went to spin, he kind of pulled the chair on him a little bit, and obviously it's tough when that momentum's taking you towards the basket to keep it down.
Yeah, sometimes it's about getting out of the way rather than in the way, and just letting the momentum of the player fall over. Oh, Williams gambled on the pass from Flanoy, and there was no help behind, so he had an easy lay-in. Bell pushing quickly, trapped in the corner, skips it round to Williams. Williams spinning. Two of them there. Martin asking for a jump ball. I think it's going to be a little optimistic on that one. Foul is called. The question was, he did get some ball,
yeah,
but he went...
It's tough in the fact, on Newcastle, the fact that both of them kind of had hands on the basketball in some ways, because there's only a number of hands that you can actually fit on a basketball without hitting, you know, the offensive player's arm or hand.
Williams at the line, shooting a pair, trying to break this 26-all tie. And they'll have to do it from the second attempt.
I think Coach Love has got Matt in there a little bit. I think he's a little bit unhappy with the lack of help defense and interior defense. Got Matt in there to hopefully be a little bit more intimidating for the Raiders.
Raiders now by a point, just over 4 to go here in the first half. Huffman out to Chapman, quick release three, short. It was a good closeout in the end by Drew Lasker, but Chapman had just enough time to get a shot off. It didn't go in.
There's some great matchups in this game with obviously the Mike Ojo and Chapman matchup, and obviously now we're seeing Drew Lasker and Chapman.
Oh, what a block by Defoe to throw that one out. And then he gets a hand in the passing lane and comes up with the loose ball. Great defensive play from Darius Defoe.
Darius Defoe gets off the floor so fast. I remember when, you know, a few years ago playing against him, and it just seemed like I was going up with, you know, hook shots, and he was just blocking everything that's going up.
Great pass there to find Martin, cutting back door, and now the Eagles take the lead. Bell, look at Williams fighting hard to get around Defoe. Good defensive effort from the Newcastle number 13. Shot clock down to 5. Bell lets it go from miles out and hits Jeremy Bell from way downtown.
Classic Jeremy Bell there when the Raiders were in trouble and, you know, low on the shot clock. That's a huge, huge shot.
Puts the home side back in front.
Again, another example of a guard posting up, and that's going to be a tough matchup for Drew, giving up a couple of inches on Joe Chapman.
It's a tough matchup for most there. Joe Chapman in the low post, but can't convert. Neither can Raiders at the other end, and this will be an easy 2 for Martin out on the break. And we talked about Charles Smith not being here. Is it me, or is Joe Chapman just running a little gingerly up and down the court here?
Yeah, a little bit, and he's obviously not shot the ball as well as he'd probably like to, and you know, if you're carrying a slight knock, then, you know, that's definitely going to affect, you know, your shot as well.
Shot clock getting low again. O'Reilly from way downtown. That one doesn't go. Recycles it back out to Bell. Bell bails out, passes it to no one, but fortunately the Raiders come up with it.
That's one thing you've got to love about Matt Schneck, is that, you know, even if he doesn't grab rebounds himself, he's getting big tips that start the offense.
And Jeremy Bell starting to find his range in this game. And a timeout has been called. Lovely spin. It's a really difficult shot that, as you're coming around, you don't see the basket. But, well, the Raiders starting to feel themselves a little bit here just before halftime. Just a 2-point game. It's been quite close all the way through, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, going against what we said at the start, with, you know, with the 2 17-point wins, you know, either team. You know, I definitely think that you know, it's going to be a close one. I can kind of see that. You know, I can't see it being any different to how it's kind of panned out, you know, in this half already.
Well, that's what we were hoping for. I was looking through the meetings of these two teams over the last 2 years, and there's been 20-point blowouts. There've been some really big wins, and it's gone both ways. It's not like one team has just dominated the other. Start of last season, Newcastle had the number of Plymouth. Plymouth came back, put a big win over the Eagles. It seems to go back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Smith is a huge factor. I know, you know, he's a great player. He's been one of the best players in this league for many years. and obviously, you know, I only get to see Charles Smith playing against Plymouth most of the time, but he definitely does seem to kind of play better in these games and these kind of rivalries. You know, he really thrives on maybe this crowd, and he's had huge games against the Raiders here, and obviously the cup final.
That was an unbelievable performance in last year's cup final. But he's on the sidelines now. I think he's helping out with a bit of the coaching, judging by the conversation he's just had with Fab Flanoy. Williams all over Huffman, and Huffman stepped back, called for the travel. Great play, just got right up on top of him, nowhere for Huffman to go, and he ended up stepping back.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is he's a good defender. He, you know, can definitely move his feet well, and you know, he can stay with the guy even if the guy's maybe a little bit quicker. He can definitely stay with him.
Ojo around the screen, gets it on to Bell. Bell back to Williams. Ojo left open, Chapman dives out at him, too late. Ojo knocks it down. They just didn't find him quick enough. You can see Chapman going, recognition, couldn't get there in time.
Yeah, and Mike's got a very, very quick release as well. So, you know, once it goes up, you know, you're not going to have much time to get a hand up. You got to be really in his face. You got to deny him the ball first of all. So if he gets a little bit of room, and then, you know, he's going to get it up.
Maddox fires up low in the shot clock. Wow, look at Barnett get up and just pluck that one out of the air. Raiders with a 5-point lead and the chance to take the last shot here of this first half.
Ojo looking to...
Ojo around to Barnett. Barnett's got to fire it up. He does. Off the front of the ring, and that'll do it. But definitely Plymouth going into the half with the momentum here. They just over the last minute and a half, maybe two, seem to have gained a little bit of a foothold in this game.
Yeah, I think Newcastle maybe rushed the last couple of offenses, and obviously, you know, both of these teams offensively, they can put points on the board in a hurry. But, you know, by no means is 5 points a comfortable lead. You know, going against the Eagles at any point, they can put points on the board in a hurry, as you've seen.
Still very much in the balance here at the Pavilions. We're at the half. It's the Raiders by 5. Second half action when we return. Welcome back to the Pavilions, where Plymouth lead Newcastle by 5. And I know you were talking about the 3-point shooting of Newcastle in the first leg of the Cup semi-final here a couple of weeks ago. 17 of 30 they were on that night. Just 1 of 6 here in the first half. That's a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, for a team like Newcastle, you know, they are a good 3-point shooting team, you know, and when they were on fire that night. I think it's definitely one of the biggest factors as to why they're down 5 at the moment.
Of course, Charles Smith with 6 of 10, and he's unavailable today. Fab Flanoy gets a score when Newcastle looked in a bit of trouble there for a second. Plymouth definitely had the momentum going into halftime, but they didn't have much of a lead.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't, you know, even we just talked about that. We just talked about obviously the 3-point shooting and then the loss of Charles Smith, but you know, this team has won too much over the years to kind of go, you know, a man down and not have enough to, you know, to fill the gap. I mean, you know, Fab's going to just, you know, grab them screaming and kicking into a position to, you know, to compete in this game.
Matt Schneck trying to convert a 3-point play, gets it to bobble in, and that is good in his first trip to the line today. Not his usual area of strength, I think is the polite way of putting it. Flanoy trying to go to work, kicks it out to Maddox. Maddox with the step back, hand in his face. Wow.
That's a 5-man in this league that's crossing over, putting the ball on the floor and hitting a fadeaway jump shot off the dribble.
Schneck trying to go to work inside, and Plymouth certainly looking to feed it in to big Matt Schneck.
Yeah, I mean, Matt's a great player in the high post. You know, just one dribble there, you know, a strong upper body, and then was able to finish.
Huffman drives in, tosses it up off the glass. Flanoy bats it out. It's knocked forward by Ojo to Chapman, who is definitely struggling. I mean, he just was not in that foot race.
Yeah,
he looks to me like a guy with a maybe lower back or a hamstring problem, but he is definitely struggling to move here in this second half. Ojo with the bounce down to... Oh, he missed the dunk inside. Barnett threw it off the back of the ring.
That's one that's going to hurt Coach Love, I think. That's one that could take us up, or take Plymouth up to 42 points.
Chapman is really struggling. Now he's clutching his elbow as Bell races back the other way off the glass. And Joe Chapman, he turns to Dave Forrester, says, no, I'm okay. But he came out of that clutching his elbow. He's been moving uncomfortably. And the Raiders are starting to pull away here.
Yeah, I think one thing Coach Love will be talking about now is obviously, he can see that Chapman is struggling somewhat. So he's going to want them to really kind of smell blood and try and...
A great play by Huffman, just veteran savvy play. Saw Bell was coming, saw Bell was going to beat him in a foot race, so just got his body in the way and said, foul me if you want.
Yeah.
O'Reilly cutting to the basket, blocked from behind by Maddox. Huffman.
And that's another category that Kareem Maddox is excelling in this season.
Oh, Flanoy had it bobbled out. Barnett looking to push. Still going, gets it out to Bell. Bell trying to find some space in the trees. That elevation and that sort of spinning shot almost that we see so often from Jeremy Bell.
If that wasn't difficult enough to make the shot off the glass as well,
yeah,
adds another area of difficulty.
Chapman to the fall away, not enough on that one. Schneck ends up with it. Ojo tossed it up. Oh, Schneck almost tipped that one in. I don't think he was intended. That'll be a jump ball. Permany 1 of 3 as far as Newcastle are concerned as to who wrapped it up. In the old days, the referees would have to make a decision as to who was jumping. But nowadays, it doesn't matter. It's just which way the arrow's going. You see, Ojo fired it up. Schneck tried to jam it in. It's dangerous sitting on them seats at the end of the basket there. You can get a player crashing into you. 6:14 on the clock here. Timeout has been called, which is why the trumpetters come out for Foxy, and we've got our fingers crossed that he doesn't break another backboard.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we've got any left, to be honest.
Barnett. Interestingly, that Chapman has come out of the game here as Newcastle trap Barnett. He gets the pass out. That means O'Reilly's open. Good ball movement, finds Bell. Good recovery by the Eagles defense. And that will be a Raiders ball. 1 or 2 of the home fans looking for a foul call on the far side.
I mean, Newcastle definitely showing, from that timeout, some tough defense with the double team in the corner.
Schneck with the spin inside. Good for 2, and the lead is into double figures.
Just using the chicken wing there just to move Maddox out the way a little bit.
Martin penetrates, kicks out. Defoe from the elbow. String music for Darius Defoe.
There's definitely a shot you can make, mid-range jump shot from the top of the key or the elbow.
O'Reilly to Schneck, bounces it back to O'Reilly. Schneck again. Wow! How did that go in from Barnett?
No idea.
Tricks over Flanoy. Flanoy is clutching his mouth. I think he caught one as Barnett went through. Barnett's looking at his elbow like he caught one. There could have been a collision between elbow and chin. There's only one winner in that. Let's have another look. If there's anything in it, it's accidental. And then you see as Barnett there.
Yeah, you can see with the left elbow. I mean, I think another big factor at the moment with how this game is panning out in that, I mean, a couple of offenses ago, you saw Anthony Martin penetrate in the cup leg that was here. Instead of kicking it to Darius Defoe for 2, it was going to the corners for 3-point shots. And it's so difficult when guys are lining up. You've got guys, Huffman, Charles Smith, and obviously Joe Chapman that are on the receiving end.
Raiders with a quick steal. Bell pushing down court. And there's a foul there on Martin, I think. He thought he was trying to get out of the way, but it's the slap down on the ball.
Yeah, I couldn't see too much there, to be honest.
So Jeremy Bell will go to the free throw line, looking to extend this 10-point lead. It bobbles out. Bell clean as you like. Midway through the third period, and it's an 11-point Plymouth lead. Newcastle looking just to hang on here as they are struggling, I think it's fair to say. Men down and on the road. But they're trying their hardest to keep themselves in this game as Huffman cuts it back down to 9.
That's going to be a sequence that will upset Coach Love a lot. You know, being able to come down there, turn the ball over, and you know, with what might have been a kind of a 4-point turnaround, you know, is a bucket for Newcastle.
Bell makes the sort of shots that he often makes. You just think that Plymouth need to really use the next 3 or 4 minutes to try and just extend this lead out to like 16, 17, because once it stays somewhere between 8 and 11, you're allowing Newcastle to be in the game down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, you can't look at this team, no matter how banged up they are. You know, they've got championship winning. You know, you've got championship caliber players on this team that are not just going to roll over. So I think Plymouth are probably looking at, you know, to the fact that they probably should be up, you know, at least 15 at the moment. And you know, in a position that it would be very, very hard to come back from.
Maddox at the foul line makes the first. This to pull it back down to single figures with 4 to play in this third. That doesn't go. O'Reilly with the rebound. Bell looking to push. Bell all the way, pulls up. Defoe had a hand in his face, and the shot is short. Look at Martin, burst of pace, gets it to Maddox underneath. He was triple teamed but found a way. And again, Newcastle just hanging in there. Cut it to 8.
The Raiders have definitely had their chances to close this game out.
Ball on the floor. Huffman pulls it out.
Maybe a little bit early, too early to talk about closing the game out, but definitely, you know, getting a tough lead to give up.
O'Reilly called for the foul, and Maddox will go to the line. Just caught him on the elbow, and timeout called. 3:21 to go here at the Pavilions in this third period. It's the Raiders who lead by 8. Well, as the teams take a timeout, so will we. We'll be back after the break. Well, back out come the Eagles, and I just keep an eye on it just to see if Joe Chapman was amongst those coming back in. He's not, and I mean, it's amazing. Newcastle out there without Smith and Chapman. You can't think of well, any time in recent memory where they've been in a situation like this, down 8, and Smith and Chapman not able to get out there and rescue the cause.
But if there's one coach and there's one team that you know that will put that past them and find a way to win, it's the Newcastle Eagles and Coach Fab Flanoy.
Maddox makes both free throws. It's only a 6-point game here at the Pavilions. O'Reilly. Ojo. Double team. And Defoe is going to get called for the foul. Going after the ball. And that's the thing, sometimes in those double teams, as we saw with Jamal Williams earlier, where he forced Huffman into the travel. It's better not to go after the ball, just make it difficult for them to get rid of it.
Yeah, and also take some, you know, that'll take some time off the clock as well.
Ojo to Schneck. Schneck backing down, a little fall away from Matt. Schneck is good for 2. He's up to 15, leads his team. Huffman to Flanoy. Flanoy looking for a way out, finds Martin halfway through the offense. Defoe. Defoe backs down. Little baby hook. Look at Maddox going after the offensive glass. Round the screen goes Huffman. Flanoy.
Again, Huffman, the only recognizable shooter out there.
Huffman
Great
will stop and go.
Yeah, lovely hesitation dribble.
Just a little stutter to buy himself the space, and he lays it in for 2. Nice pass to Schneck, cutting to the basket, and Defoe. It's the sign of a big man there. My arm's straight up, ref, but when you watch the replay, watch his arms come down forward and then go back up.
Yeah, and I don't think that the feet were set in any case. A little bit slow to get across there. Buries Defoe.
So Matt Schneck at the free throw line. Off the back of the ring with the first. The second one goes in. Lead out to 7. 12 minutes to go here. Between two teams who competed in 2 major finals against each other last year, cup and trophy. Newcastle winning them both, won everything last year. Flanoy hit the bottom of the board as he tried to lay that in. Barnett saw the size differential between he and Huffman, and perhaps a little too keen. Oh, look at Martin looking to push again. I don't think Plymouth have seen him. They should know. If anybody knows about the pace, it should be Plymouth.
Yeah.
Maddox driving hard, challenge, couldn't quite convert. He'll go to the line for 2.
I think Newcastle are looking at that particular play in order to get back in this game. And the shooters just aren't out there for Newcastle, so they're going to be pounding it inside, looking to get to the free throw line, stopping the clock, and trying to win that battle of the paint.
Well, the Geordie fans are doing their best. They're up in the gods here, trying to make as much noise for their team as they can. Long way to come, long weekend for those traveling faithful.
Definitely one of the loudest traveling support every year here at the Pavilions, Newcastle.
Their team trailing by only 6. Joe Chapman back into the game, replacing Darius Defoe. Defoe picked up a 3rd foul a moment or 2 ago. That might be why he's been arrested. O'Reilly, little head fake. Oh, good pass, and that's a goaltend.
Yeah. Hit the glass first by the looks of it.
Once the ball's hit the backboard, you got to let it hit it the ring, and Maddox, you'll see on the replay, just hit the backboard, then he tipped it away. That's not legal, so 2 points given for that. Good hands from Alaska to bat that out of bounds. Inside the final minute of the 3rd, it'll be a Newcastle ball from the side, which their player coach Fab Flanoy will inbound. Maddox has it. Hands over to Huffman. Sets his feet for 3. That's way too long. Rebound, his bodies crash at the other end. Lasker pushing. Ojo. Under great pressure, overcooked the shot. Lasker got the rebound, went down hard, tried to get the pass away so that he wouldn't travel with it, and it came back to him. Here's another look. See, the shot is overcooked. He got it, tried to get it away, and then
great transition defense by the Eagles there. Fab Flanoy was on the floor again, and on the far free throw line, still managed to get guys back behind the ball and get a stop.
Martin dumps off to Flanoy, out to Huffman. Huffman for 3, doesn't go. Lasker almost had it, but Maddox knocks it loose, and Newcastle can almost tick this down. There's about 2 seconds between the shot and the game clock. Well, Martin against Schneck, that's a foot race mismatch. I'm surprised they're not looking to change this, because there's only one winner as Martin goes to the hole. He can't convert. Schneck does get the rebound, and they will get a chance here. Schneck running down, gets it to Ojo. Ojo, long 2 on the buzzer, doesn't go. And Plymouth had their chances, but Newcastle will not go away in this game.
No, I mean, again, like we said before, the Raiders are going to be very disappointed. Coach Love will be very disappointed, I think, with the fact that they had chances to really kind of get away from Newcastle, and obviously, even though the club will be happy and the team will be happy that we're up against Newcastle with a quarter to play, I don't think it's with the size, the kind of the cushion that Coach Love would have wanted at this point.
Well, it's the Raiders who lead by 8 here at the Pavilions. We'll have 4th quarter action right after this. Welcome back to Plymouth. 10 minutes to go here. The champions in a hole. The Raiders looking to inflict a second defeat in as many days on Newcastle. And they lead by 8 with the ball here, Plymouth. Oh, great defense from Huffman. Throws it into the backcourt to avoid the turnover.
Nearly an excellent pass falling out of bounds as well.
Barnett. Oh, that's got to kill you when you see the hustle and effort that Huffman gave, and yet they still end up with 2 points there, Plymouth.
Yeah, I mean, Javaris Barnett can definitely shoot that. The pull-up jump shot's one of his, one of his go-to plays.
Huffman behind the back, shot clock getting low, drives in, fakes the pass, takes it to the hole strong and converts for 2.
Again, Huffman really showing, excellent, skills to penetrate the Plymouth defense, but he's obviously made the layup there, but he can hit the pull-up jump shot and find the open man as well. He's very good when he puts the ball on the floor.
Lasker trying to get round Huffman, finds O'Reilly in the corner. O'Reilly drives in, shot clock getting low, and there's a whistle on the play. Foul is on Damon Huffman for the block, and O'Reilly will go to the line to shoot a pair.
Again, Plymouth are, have been not, should we say, a great free throw shooting team over the last, probably 3 seasons. But this year they've, really improved their free throw percentage, as a team.
Well, first one is good for Colin O'Reilly. Raiders 3rd in the league this season, 73% from the line. It helps when you've got 3 guys for whom it's almost automatic: Lasker, Ojo, and O'Reilly. And as I say that, O'Reilly misses the second, and we've seen Ojo miss one as well today. But 3 phenomenal foul shooters. Huffman bounces it out to Martin. Defoe. Defoe drives hard to the hole. Good defense from Schneck to deny him. Lasker bounces it on to Ojo from behind the arc, doesn't go. Huffman takes up high and does enough to pull it away. Maddox is on his own down court, and Maddox will jam it down. But what about the effort from Huffman going up against Barnett and winning that battle?
And Javaris can get up as well. He can definitely jump. So it was a great rebound, a lot of heart shown from Huffman there.
Well, Huffman, as we see that rebound, Huffman just went over to the table and said, looked over to the bench and said, call a timeout. I think he might be struggling a bit as well. Fatigue, his second game in 24 hours, playing a part here as well. Plymouth have had a day off in between their 2 games.
Yeah, obviously, Newcastle to Plymouth is obviously a long old trip, especially when you've got to stop in Worcester against a tough Worcester team too.
An improving Worcester team, judging by their signings, and that will be a blocking foul on Darius Defoe, and with 7.5 minutes to go. I make that his 4th personal foul. We'll check with the table, but just not quite there in time, adjudged the referee. And yes, it is foul number 4 on Defoe. And Fab Flanoy is going to come into the game for him. But that's a big blow, A, because it puts Darius on the bench now, and B, when they bring him back into the game, he'll have to be a little bit more tentative on defense.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Matt Schneck so far has had an excellent game. You know, he's been, you know, one of the, you know, the top guy inside for the Raiders, being able to get to the basket and get to the line. And this obviously makes Newcastle a lot smaller with, I guess, Fab Flanoy going to the 4.
Well, that makes the second. Williams will come into the game for Schneck. 8 points lead for the Raiders with 7.5 to play. Joe Chapman brings it forward for Newcastle. Flanoy sets the screen on Ojo. Chapman stop and go, reaching in from Lasker to knock it loose, and Raiders come up with it.
Again, Raiders getting the stops, but you know, the question is, can they convert the other end against this this Newcastle defense?
Good hands from Flanoy to knock it away from Williams, but he recovered. Barnett trying to free himself some space, fires up for a long 2. Rebound comes out to Martin, looking to race down court as ever. Martin is going to be called for a double dribble. I'm with you. I might have been able to call a carry out of that, but not a double dribble. I suppose there's not much of a difference between the two.
I mean, I think it's going to be that'll be a frustrating one for. Yeah, I can see.
Maybe.
I can see what they call that, because he did use that to change direction. But if you've been doing that all season, or if you've been doing that all game, then it's frustrating when, you know, when one gets called.
Well, he's not happy with it. Here's another look for that one where they knocked it out of bounds on that last play, and it means Raiders have the ball. Barnett driving in, blocked by Maddox, and that came off Martin last, so will be still a Raiders ball. Only 3 seconds on the shot clock. He's a tremendous athlete, Kareem Maddox.
Yeah, he's obviously got great timing on his shot blocking as well.
Barnett, oh, tough shot in the corner, hand in his face, shot clock down to 2, knocks it down, 10-point lead. Maddox. Great block by Barnett.
Javaris Barnett getting one back on Maddox there.
And here he is at the other end, lets it go from behind the arc, off the back of the ring, and Huffman has the board. Again, another tremendous piece of athleticism on that block. Maddox looking to go to work. And he's fouled. And even though he had his back to the basket, he wisely threw it up to make sure the referee knew he was trying to attempt a shot there.
Javaris Barnett getting caught with his hands in the cookie jar there. I think he would have been wise just to kind of stand with his hands up a little bit rather than reaching in. You always give the referees an easy job to call that.
Well, it's interesting. You watched the replay. It did look like it was Barnett committing the foul, but the referee signaled 24, which is Williams' number. Williams was also there, but he seems to have been accredited with the foul. Maddox makes both from the free throw line. Still not out of range yet here, Plymouth. Leading by only 8 with 6 to play. O'Reilly spins baseline. Williams from behind the arc, doesn't go. Lasker almost had it. Williams almost had it. Eventually it comes out to Barnett.
Yeah, neither team shooting the ball particularly well tonight.
O'Reilly breaks the double team. Oh, Maddox tipped it to the only Plymouth player in there, but eventually Huffman came down with it. Huffman diving on the floor, trying to keep it alive, but O'Reilly had knocked it loose and he comes up with it. O'Reilly gets it to Ojo from the corner, Wow.
Again, still can't make open shots.
But Ojo from the corner is almost automatic. It's rare to see him miss one like that. Chapman, and the foul, I think, is called on Ojo. There's some words being exchanged between Hoffman and Ojo. There was something going on between those two in the lead up to that. Let's see if we can... There was some words that he's just pushed him out of the way. It is a foul, but there was more to it than that. And that's why they've had a bit of chat afterwards. Something must have happened between those two guys in the last 30 seconds or something, because that was the end of the play, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, you know, things are always going to be kind of tense, you know, fourth quarter of a game like this. I mean, you know, that's maybe a little bit of a flop there, but obviously, you know, you can't, as soon as you extend your arms.
I think that's your green eyes watching that. That's a good push in my book, but yeah, I'm sure there must have been something said at one end or the other, and that's the reaction to that.
Well, as the teams take a timeout, so will we. We'll be back after the break.
Well, you get the feeling that Plymouth have been comfortable enough in this game that they look the most likely to win, but Newcastle just refuse to give up. They will not go away. And one thing we know about Newcastle is they find a way to win games, and if you give them the opportunity to still be in the game with 5 minutes to go, they'll make you pay.
I'm sure that's probably what Coach Love is talking about, or has been talking about in that timeout. You know, the Raiders have been given a lot of chances, a lot of wide open looks from Newcastle turnovers, just haven't been able to convert and get that lead that they would have liked. So, but again, like you say, you know, if there's one team, if you don't punish them and get that lead on them, then you're giving them a chance to get back in the game.
Maddox, it's what makes a champion, and there's no doubt that no team has been more successful in the BBL, let alone the last 7 or 8 years, than Newcastle Eagles. Kareem Maddox then at the free throw line. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 21 points.
Been to the line a lot today as well.
Yeah, he's 11 of 14 from this distance after that one. But he's attacked the basket really well. And if you're aggressive going to the hole, you will get a lot of chances from the free throw.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps that along with that aggressiveness, you've got a really, really solid handle of the basketball, and for a big man, he has a great, you know, handling skills.
Oh, and there he is getting his hands in. It looked like an easy pass to Schneck, who had the position, but somehow Maddox popped it out. Great work, and then that
looked like it could have been Anthony Martin.
Looked like it could have been Anthony Martin, but the referee says Schneck.
Referee's closer than we are.
Newcastle trailing only by 6 now with the ball. Well, if the Eagles pull this one out, it will be worth way more than the 2 BBL championship points that they will get for it, that's for sure.
There's one guy right here that the Raiders have got to be very wary about, and for that reason, you know, he's definitely playing with an injury. But again, you know, a guy, you know, an ex-MVP or MVP from last season, you know, not shot the ball well today, but, you know, all great shooters can just come alive at any time.
Yeah, when the game's on the line as well, suddenly the pain doesn't feel as much. Schneck driving through, offensive foul, wave off the score. He ran down Fab-Lenoy. The home fans booing it, they're not much liking it, but looked a pretty good call from where I'm sat.
I'm not sure if they were asking if it should have been basket good.
You almost never see charging foul and basket good, almost never. And yet, you almost always see and one if there's a defensive foul.
Joe Chapman going to the post.
Gets Maddox at the free throw line. Spins, puts it up, knocks it down, and we have ourselves a 2-point ball game. Charles Smith enjoying himself, watching on. 3:20 to go, and Newcastle have pulled themselves back to within a basket.
Get really impressed with Kareem Maddox and some of the shots he's making as a 5-man in this league.
And they collapse hard on Schneck, and Huffman and Martin recognize the player. They know he's going to score over us. Let's foul him, put him on the free throw line. Not a great free throw shooter. He might not make both.
Yeah, I think he's hovering around the 50% mark for the season. I think maybe just under. So, you know, on the Raiders team, definitely, you know, if you're going to foul one of the guys out there at the moment, it would be Matt Schneck. But making that shot there.
Well, he is under 50% from the free throw line. 46.7 he is this season. So if his averages are anything to be led, there could be a rebound here. But no, he makes them both. Clutch shooting there from Schneck. Raiders back into a 2-shot lead here by 4 at the Pavilions. They've led pretty much exclusively.
Yeah, and the Eagles looking like they're getting the ball to Chapman and Maddox now. Down the.
That's off Chapman's leg and will be a Raiders ball. They certainly look like they're going into Chapman and trying to feed off him, whether it be throwing it back out to Maddox at the foul line or just Chapman going to work.
Yeah, that looks like the play at the moment for the Eagles.
Ojo off the back of the ring and off the stanchion, so Newcastle will get it back. Martin picks the ball up, brings it across halfway. 2:30 to play in this ball game. Just 4 points between them. Huffman fakes at it. Steps back. Maddox looking to go to work. Spins, gets it to Chapman. Shot clock down to 4. Chapman from behind the arc. Oh, all string from Joe Chapman. It's a 1-point game.
As I was saying earlier, a guy who's had a quiet game. He's obviously struggling with a little niggle. And, you know, if there's one guy that you just can't, you know, leave alone, especially with 2 minutes to go in the game, it'll be Joe Chapman.
His first 3-pointer of the game. He's up to 9 personal points. But playing through the pain here has given his team a real chance. That's fired up on the buzzer, doesn't go. Newcastle get the rebound, and with 90 seconds to play, they can take the lead here. Chapman tosses it up, and Newcastle are in front. What a stunning comeback, and now Flanoy is hobbling down court. The Geordie fans are going nuts. Flanoy is struggling. Bell fires up for 3, it's short, rebound, Schneck knocked away by Flanoy. And whatever happens here, this is an epic performance by the Newcastle Eagles. He says he's all right now, Flanoy. He seems to be walking a bit better. It'll be a Raiders ball from the end.
Even though the Eagles, you know, offensively haven't been the most fluent, you know, their offense is obviously with a struggling Joe Chapman and Charles Smith who's not playing, you know, has been better, but their defense has been phenomenal today.
Off the back of the ring, O'Reilly trying to pull down the offensive rebound, does so. Great play from the Irishman. And with just over a minute to play, Plymouth still have the ball, trailing by 1. Bell with the fall away, puts Plymouth in front.
I thought it was pretty good defense by Maddox there to stay with Jeremy Bell, so that, you know, that shot makes it, you know, it was even tougher to make.
Foul is called on Ojo as he was trying to make sure they couldn't get round the screen. That is the 5th of the quarter, so it means 2 free throws. And it's a question of who he was grabbing. I think it was Huffman, so it'll be Huffman who goes to the line. Is it? No, it was Chapman.
Yeah, it's you know,
let's have another look on the replay, because Huffman's setting the screen, and
it may have been.
Yeah, I think he's fouled Huffman. They're just discussing as to whether he fouled the screener or the guy coming around the screen.
I think Mike's going to be, I think he's going to probably upset the fact that, you know, Huffman looked like he was using his hip a little bit there or pivoting into the screen, and Mike was just trying to get around it. But
Joe Chapman misses the first from the free throw line. And he's a 63% free throw shooter. That's why they were trying to get Hoffman on the line instead. He misses them both, but look at Maddox on the offensive glass. Chapman thinks about the three, turns it down. Hoffman will take it and hits from behind the arc. The Geordies are still on their feet because they lead by 2 now with 35 seconds to play. Wow, what
Huffman,
a game.
That's a huge shot, huge shot.
Bonnet spinning out of control, loses the ball, and Hoffman diving on it. He didn't realize it was going to be his possession. And look at those fans. They've got a long trip home, but they might be going home celebrating a victory.
I think Raiders got no option but to put Eagles on the line now. They might leave it a few seconds to try and get the steal, but they're under the shot clock.
And Newcastle are going to call a timeout. Fab Flanoy to inbound. First objective, get it to a white shirt. He does that with Hoffman, and Hoffman is fouled straight away by Barnett, and he clutches his hip, comes up hobbling. That's the last thing they need, another injury. Don't think there was any malice in it. Barnett just couldn't stop and ran into him, but just caught him in an awkward place.
Raiders will be hoping for, you know, one or two. Obviously, a best case scenario is 2 misses, and then they'll have the ball back with 22 seconds left to either look to go to overtime or look for the win. But obviously, if he makes both, then obviously that changes things slightly.
Damon Hoffman, who's not actually shot that many free throws at all this season, only 27, but he's missed 10 of them, with a chance to make it a 2-shot game. First one is good. If this goes in, Raiders are going to have to get into quick score and then foul mode. This a potentially huge shot for the Newcastle Eagles. He makes them both. They never looked in doubt, either of them. They were the 2 of the cleanest free throws you could possibly hope to see. And now Gavin Love calls a timeout. He's got to come up with a play that is A, going to get points on the board, and B, going to do it quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a choice of whether to run a play to get the ball inside, get maybe a quick 2-pointer inside and then foul again, or look to maybe get an open look against this Newcastle team. You know, it is tough to get an open look, you know, especially in the half court. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, which way Coach Love goes.
Well, it's Lasker to inbound. It looks like Bell, who's going to come up off the screen from Barnett, judging by that draw-up. It's into Bell. And there's Bell round from Schneck. Bell fires up for 3, gets hit by Flanoy. Wow, if that had gone in, then Bell would have been going to the line to tie the game. It didn't drop, but he will go to the line with a chance to make it a 1-point game.
And the other thing about that, there wasn't much time taken off the clock. There's still, you know, 18.8 left. Which is obviously time for Jeremy to maybe make the free throws and then foul again, get Newcastle to the line and have another shot.
Oh no, he's missed the first. He's got to make these 2, got to. Second one is clean. Well, this, if it doesn't go in, I suppose an offensive rebound would be okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
but you'd want to make it.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a quick foul here, and have to put Eagles on the line straight away. No time off the clock.
They get it into Hoffman, and Ojo commits that foul. Only 1 second elapsed there, but Hoffman, who looked cool as you like on the last trip down, is making it again. Same scenario, 2 shots, gives them a lead that Plymouth cannot catch in one offense. But if he misses one of these 2, it opens the door. he's missed the first. So Plymouth will have a chance. Barring an offensive rebound, Plymouth will have a chance to come down and force overtime, worst case scenario. Makes the second 3-point game. Gavin Love now calls a timeout. 17.8.
You've got the same kind of choice now of whether to get a quick go for the 3-point shot to tie it up, or get a quick 2, or get to the line and a chance to foul again, immediately.
Well, let's have a look if we can work out from this board where he's going. It's 4 low again coming out. Somebody coming to the free throw line, jumping out. It looks to me
it looks like
they're going to end up with a 3-point play.
Yeah, but I think the guy that sets the screen, it could be a Javaris Barnett, it could be a Colin O'Reilly, a guy that can come up and set the screen. Fades out to the 3-point line. All eyes will be on Jeremy Bell. But obviously it's that guy setting the screen that looks like that could be fading for the 3-point line for the shot to tie it.
Well, that will be interesting to see who that screen setter is, as you say. If it's somebody like O'Reilly, Barnett's shown he can shoot a 3-point shot, and it won't be what Newcastle are perhaps expecting first case. We'll see. It's Ojo to inbound.
Barnett was a 40% 3-point shooter in score, and he's the
Bell.
one setting
It
the
is
screen,
Barnett
fading.
setting the screen. Bell drives in. Bell going for 2, gets it to Schneck, and Schneck lays it in.
There's another immediate foul.
Oh, Huffman's broken away. Huffman's running away, and he's caught by Ojo. Well, they were a bit lucky that it only allowed a couple of seconds.
Extremely lucky.
If Huffman had caught this cleanly, instead he just dropped it, he could have run a few more seconds off that.
Or made a layup. I'm not sure if he'd
probably have tried to run the time.
Yeah.
Mike Ojo, that was his 5th personal foul. And, well, Dave Forrester, the assistant coach of Newcastle, is wanting unsportsmanlike. He was the last man back, but I have to say, I don't really much like that rule and prefer that it's just a regular foul. Hoffman makes the first, but whatever happens here, the Raiders are going to have a chance to come. They've no timeout, so they're going to have to do it on the fly. Are going to have a chance to try and tie the game again. Huffman makes them both. Raiders need a 3. They need a 3. It must go in. Here comes Bell to O'Reilly in the corner. O'Reilly steps underneath. He's under pressure. Oh, he's thrown it away. Oh. He's tossed it away, and Newcastle are going to win a game that they should never have won. What an amazing victory for the Newcastle Eagles. They just would not be denied, and that is the performance of a champion.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it early on. There was a point in the third quarter where the Raiders could have taken it onto maybe a 15-20 point game and maybe put it out of the reach of the Eagles at that point. The Eagles stayed with it. Their defense was excellent, even if they were stuttering a little bit in the third quarter on offense. But again, like Rudy Tomjanovich, the ex-NBA coach, would say, never underestimate the heart of a champion.
You certainly can't. And Newcastle Eagles, against all the odds, without Charles Smith, with Joe Chapman hobbling up and down the court, have somehow pulled out a win here at the Plymouth Pavilions. It's finished Raiders 70 and the Eagles 73. Well, Gavin, games like that, it must be terribly frustrating to be a coach. You've let one slip there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but do you know what? That's the theme of the year. We've done that many times. We just don't know how to finish games, unfortunately, and we just make crucial errors. I mean, we could have gone up by 15 if we were a little bit smarter down the stretch. And, we missed a few open shots, which would have turned it for us. And them's the breaks. They kept playing the way they were, and we're failing to finish games, and it's really painful and very frustrating.
Was the decisive moment actually in the third quarter that you didn't build up enough of a cushion to defend?
Yeah, I think we had options. I mean, wide open jump shots which we missed. We had 3 threes, so normally we'd knock down by great 3-point shooters, and that probably was the turning point of the game. Really, like you said, we didn't build up much of a lead, and they've come back and they torched us. It was, you could feel it coming, and unfortunately, it's happened to us again. And this is becoming the theme of the season for us.
And how do you rectify that?
Well, you just have to keep working. I mean, we worked towards, we played really well last week. We played terribly on Friday. We played reasonably well today, I felt. We just got to keep plugging away, and hopefully it's going to click. But right now, yeah, we've lost a lot of games.
Well, Fab, in the league table, all wins are worth 2 points, but was that one worth more to you today?
Yeah, that was a big moral victory for us. I mean, got to take my hats off to Plymouth. They came out, they had a great game plan, they had great players. And we just stuck with it. I mean, it was ugly. It was really ugly, but at the same time, it was a great game. And that's what happens when you're playing against a team that know you inside out. As we know them, they know us, and it was just, punch for punch, literally, as you can tell by the blood everywhere on the court.
And third quarter, I mean, they had you on the ropes a bit. You had no Smith. Chapman was sitting out as well with an injury, but you just found a way to hang in there.
Yeah, I mean, they had us on the ropes the whole game, to be honest, Daniel. But, in particular in the third quarter, it was going ugly. We didn't have any energy. We played last night, and it became a period where we had to go to the new guys. And Maddox, big for us on his birthday. Damon Huffman, new point guard, great for us. And Anthony Martin, obviously, he's played down here last year. So, they had a big game for us, in particular in the third quarter, has allowed us to get back into it.
And what does that do for your title ambitions?
It keeps us in it. And, and that's the only thing that we can do. We're still alive in all 4 pieces of competition within the league. And, it's just keep us in it. And that's just a real morale boost for us and our team. And we need it, especially with, all the injuries that we have right now.
Tremendous victory here for the Eagles in Plymouth. Next week, we have another top-of-the-table clash for you as the Heat go head-to-head with the Eagles up in the northeast. That's Newcastle Eagles versus Surrey Heat, Tuesday, 18th of December, Sky Sports 4 at 5 p.m. Hope you enjoyed today's action. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.